Sung Jin-woo became the strongest hunter ever thanks to the system, transforming him into the next Shadow Monarch. But a person's genes also affect how attracted gate monsters are to you, which is why Jin Woo kept getting his ass whooped when he was just an E-rank. And now, in solo leveling Ragnarok, the next member of the Sung lineage, Suho, is taking the multiverse by surprise, with a genius that even surpasses his father, Jin Woo. However, to understand why this family is so busted, we have to talk about Suho's grandpa, Sung Il-Hwan. He was originally your average, everyday firefighter, but became a hunter when gates started to show up and made it to the level of S rank. Now, the hunter system wasn't properly established here, so he was never truly recognized for his skill, but we do know that Hwan was one of, if not the best Korean S rank hunter at the time. But none of that mattered to him, as Hwan was all about protecting his family from the threat of the gates, a philosophy Jin Woo would take to heart as he got older. If Hwan was so strong, why did he disappear 10 years ago, leaving his wife, son, and daughter all alone to fend for themselves? Well, 10 years before the story, Hwan was trapped inside a dungeon during a raid, which led everyone, including his son, Sung Jin-woo, to believe he was dead. In reality, Hwan was found by the rulers on the brink of death, and sealed away, instead being offered a second chance at life as one of their 7 vessels. This goes back to the ancient war between light and darkness, the conflict responsible for everything in solo leveling. There were the rulers, who embodied the will to protect, and the monarchs, who embodied destruction. And so these gooners fought against each other due to their opposing natures, lasting eons, eventually resulting in the monarchs invading and destroying the human world. With everything gone, the rulers used the Cup of Reincarnation to reset the world back to before the monarch's invasion, taking necessary steps to ensure humanity was ready, including spawning in gates and spreading mana throughout the world, leading to the creation of hunters. However, most importantly was the creation of the 7 human vessels, people to harness the ruler's power to kill the monarchs, Hwan being one of said vessels, who was tasked with killing the new Shadow Monarch. Yeah, that means his son.
What?
And honestly, Hwan was strong enough to beat Jin Woo even after the Jeju Island raid, as having the ruler's blessing would make him rank up to the level of a national level hunter. However, since no one knew he existed, this title wasn't officially given to him before Jin Woo even, became God. So Hwan would have been the strongest hunter on the entire planet before his son. With Jin Woo now being Ashborn's vessel, Hwan is released and resurfaces inside a dungeon connected to the United States, met by a squad of A-rank hunters, who mistake him for a humanoid-like monster. This is because a human has never come out of a gate before, but even a group of A-ranks stand no chance against a vessel of the rulers. And after showing everyone that he's that guy, Hwan is arrested and tries to explain everything. However, there's this slight problem here, guys. Hwan can't speak English, and Americans are stupid, so they didn't bring a translator. I'm American. I'm stupid. Hwang Dong-soo, a Korean S-rank hunter, is brought in to help with the interrogation, but despite being previously one of Korea's strongest hunters, Hwan makes him look like a bug, before dipping to go complete his mission and telling the man to stay out of Korea and away from his family. My man would be fighting 3 monarchs at the same time near the end of the story. What did he think he was gonna do? He's not gonna do anything. With that said, let's move on to the other members of Jin Woo's initial family, his sister Jin-ha and his mom, Park Young-hee. Jin Woo's mom was what you expect, caring and resilient, as she refused to believe Hwan was dead and raised her 2 kids on her own. She probably just thought Hwan went to go get milk or something. However, she also fell victim to the eternal slumber, a disease caused by humanity's exposure to gates and magic beasts, as anyone intolerant to mana are affected by being around a mana-radiating human like an awakened person or high-ranked hunter. And so they permanently lose consciousness and their life force constantly depletes until they die. This left a 20-something-year-old Jin Woo all alone to take care of his little sister, Jin-ha, becoming a hunter despite his E rank, not only to pay for her schooling, but their mom's medical bills. Like his father, Jin Woo is willing to do whatever it takes for his family, even if it costs him his his life. He also hoped that by becoming a hunter, he could find a cure for his mom's disease in the gates, which we now know to be the Holy Water of Life, a potion whose recipe was only found in the Demon Castle. Going back to Jin-ha though, she's your typical normal manhwa high schooler with a supernatural brother/god, but she might also have some latent abilities of her own. Like I said earlier, Jin Woo has a theory about hunters and their genes. The stronger the hunter's bloodline, the more potent you are to monsters. Even before his second awakening, Jin Woo's dad was a natural-born S-rank, meaning that Jin Woo was going to attract high-ranked monsters despite being an E rank. The same can be said of Jin-ha as a normal human, as she was attacked by high-ranked monsters at her school, most likely due to her brother and dad both having that sort of super-powered gene, because they're both S ranks. Now, if she really tried, could Jin-ha become a hunter? Maybe, but let's be real here, he didn't risk his life for her to get good grades only for her to drop out. So, who else are we supposed to talk about now? Jin Woo's grandpa? Well, what if I told you Jin Woo technically has two more parents? Ones that have existed for eons. The first being the system, aka the architect. Another name for this dude is Kandiaru, a monster who took the form of a statue depicting a hooded angel with 6 wings that could shapeshift into arms. He's an utter psychopath, an evil being through and through. And during the initial Monarch invasion, he came to Ashborn, offering to help him find a suitable human vessel for the Monarch in exchange for immortality. He crafted the system to ensure a person could constantly grow until they reached a suitable power level worthy of the new Shadow Monarch, and used the double dungeon as a means to scout out potential candidates. It wasn't as easy as just finding the closest human and shoving the system inside them. Kandiaru needed someone who had the right physique and mentality to become a vessel, which he eventually found in Jin Woo, who was able to pass all his tests, which is most likely due to his lineage. And we all know the story from there. Jin Woo is given the system and goes from the worst hunter ever to a god practically overnight. And after becoming strong enough, he traveled back to the double dungeon and killed the guy who caused his awakening in the first place, as he wasn't some person trying to help Jin Woo, but a monster loyal to the monarchs, believing that Jin Woo was just a vessel, while in reality, Ashborn wanted a successor so he could find his place in the universe, which doesn't revolve around the two sides of the monarchs and rulers. So Kandiaru, yeah, he's not on our side, guys. Realizing that the Shadow Monarch betrayed the architect, Kandiaru attempted to disable the system, but he'd been locked out, giving Jin Woo enough time to kill him. While just a sadistic, evil entity, the architect is sort of like a parent to Jin Woo too, as without him, he would have never become the greatest hunter to ever live. But when it comes to his supernatural abilities, his true parent is of course the one inside of him this whole time, the Shadow Monarch Ashborn. Now, this guy isn't any normal monarch, he's the strongest creature in existence, not counting the interims, who are the absolute beings. I know I briefly went over the monarchs versus ruler conflict, but it's actually far deeper than I let on. You see, this entire war was orchestrated by one person known as the absolute being, the creator of both races and a god who viewed the world as his entertainment. And so while the monsters killed each other, this man was eating his popcorn. The rulers begged their daddy to end the war, to stop the unnecessary bloodshed, but this man was enjoying peak fiction, so he obviously declined, which forced the rulers to take matters into their own hands, killing their creator. There was only one ruler who remained loyal to the absolute being, Ashborn, who after being attacked by them and on the brink of death, awakened a monstrous power placed within him by the absolute being, transforming him into the Shadow Monarch. This secret power was actually the key to destruction, which could devastate the entire universe. He then joined the monarchs in their fight against the rulers, but this didn't last long, as Ashborn was the most powerful entity in the entire war, single-handedly shifting the power balance. Both sides feared him, and so he became the enemy of everyone, eventually fleeing the battlefield to rebuild his shadow army, allowing the rulers to end the war with their victory. However, Ashborn would return to the monarchs eventually, and follow them as they launched their assault on the human world to rebuild their armies. As we know, this led to the monarchs decimating the human world, destroying everyone and everything, and forcing the rulers to use the Cup of Reincarnation to reset time before the monarchs Monarch's invasion of the human world ever happened. But as I said earlier, Ashborn had no plans on taking over Earth. All he wanted was to find a successor, which he found in Jin Woo. In this sense, we can view our goat's awakening as him being born again as Ashborn's spawn. As the more Jin Woo grows, the more powers and abilities he takes from Ashborn, such as gaining a shadow army, uncomparable speed and strength, and spiritual body manifestation, as Jin Woo basically becomes a one-to-one lookalike of Ashborn during his battle with the Dragon Monarch, Antares. This is similar to the way a child takes traits from their parents and makes it their own, crafting an identity separate from the parent. This is what the architect failed to understand. Jin Woo isn't Ashborn. He's his own person, one with his own motivations and goals. And this comes full circle at the end of the series. His dad is dead. Millions have perished against the monarchs. And so, with his absolute resolve, Jin Woo requests to use the Cup of Reincarnation one last time to reset everything back to how it was prior to Gates appearing in the human world, and that he alone would take on the monarchs. And that's exactly what happens. Everyone who was once a hunter, including Jin Woo's dad, goes back to being regular humans. Jin Woo travels to the Monarch dimension and fights them off for years. However, on Earth, this has been pretty much no time at all. And so Jin Woo, still with his Monarch powers, lives a normal life as a detective, purposely encountering Cha Ha-ain and becoming friends with her. After blossoming a friendship for years, the two start dating and eventually get married. And this brings us to the only character in the series who has a chance of surpassing Jin Woo, his son, Suho, the main character of solo leveling sequel, Ragnarok. Since Jin Woo technically isn't human by the end of the series, Suho was born with powers passed down by his dad, awakening them as a freaking toddler by gaining the ability to fly. Realizing his son is basically a god now too, Jin Woo decided to train him, but he became so strong his classmates and teachers started to fear him, leading to Jin Woo sealing his son's powers away and his memories of the Shadow Army. And so Suho's life became pretty normal until high school. As a teenager, Suho always had a strong moral compass and desire to fight, as he had garnered a reputation for beating up any bullies stupid enough to pick on him. However, Suho always had that longing for something more, a strong desire to fight the strongest of opponents. And things started to change after he had a dream of entering his father's domain, the Shadow Dungeon. Within it, Suho was led on a journey of rediscovering his abilities. He would start from zero, making his way through the dungeon, becoming incredibly strong and taking on many similar challenges to the ones that Jin Woo did, and eventually facing some of the strongest members of the Shadow Army like Igris and Beru with just gauntlets. He's still a child here, by the way. He's like 16. Regardless, this dream would stick with Suho even years later, constantly making him question who he is. Which leads us to Ragnarok, where beings known as the Outer Gods or Itarims kidnap Suho's mom and force Jin Woo and the Shadow Army into another massive war, thus leaving Suho by himself and reawakening his powers. Jin Woo, needing someone who could serve as his equal, would send Beru back to Earth to unseal Suho's powers and train him so that he could fight alongside his father and end the war with these Outer Gods. But Suho unlocked these powers on his own when he was about to risk everything to save another human, just like how his own father did during the Double Dungeon. Also, remember how Jin Woo reset the entire timeline so, humans would never have to fight monsters? So yeah, that's not the case because of these Outer Gods. Hunters are back, guilds are back. The world is basically how it was when Jin Woo reset everything. Just like his father, Suho would start off as an E-rank hunter, but has the ability to constantly level up. Instead of the architect building the system this time, it was Jin Woo himself who wanted his son to go through the similar trials he did to one day help save the multiverse. The boy even has abilities the same as his father, like Kandiaru's Blessing or Longevity. Suho is the culmination of the Sung family genes, where his father or grandfather would thrust into the world of hunters unknowingly. Suho was born for this world, not only clearing the entire Shadow Dungeon as a kid, but in the Ragnarok fights, we see that Suho is even better at using the Shadow Monarch powers than Jin Woo. For example, when he created his wolf fists using a risen wolf's as weapons, which can replenish themselves when destroyed. For Jin Woo to do such a feat, he had to wait till the final arc to even do shadow armor. Suho isn't alone though. His dad may be out of the universe fighting these deities, but Jin Woo did send Chibi-Beru as a mentor for the boy. Throughout solo leveling Ragnarok, we constantly see Beru giving Suho advice and talking about Jin Woo and seeing how he compares to his son and things like behavior. He's literally giving him all the advice Jin Woo and Hwan never had. In fact, one of the things that Suho always relies on to get out of a pinch is think about what his dad would have done in a certain situation. Throughout their history, the Sung family has always been bestowed ungodly power to save the world, as is the case for Il-Hwan, or save the universe for Jin Woo, and now it's save the multiverse from the Itorams for Sung Suho. Like, bro, is Suho Sung gonna save like multiple multiverses? Like, how far are we gonna go with this thing? With that said, to learn even more about solo leveling and its strongest hunters, check out the video on screen right now.